The sign on the lawn says sold, and the number everyone repeats at dinner is $650,000. Here's the number nobody repeats. What actually lands in the seller's bank account 6 weeks later, because between that sold sign and the deposit, the check passes through 5 gates, and every single gate takes a cut. Welcome back to Canada Finance with Alex, the channel that helps you understand exactly what's happening to your money before the bank or the government does. I'm Alex, and today we're following that check through every gate, dollar by dollar, and then answering the harder question waiting at the end: what a retiree should actually do with a few $100,000 that arrives all at once at 70, including one situation where parking that money in the wrong place quietly costs you a government benefit for good. Gate 1 is commission, the single biggest bite the check takes. Standard practice across most of Canada is 5% total commission split between listing and buyer's agents, though 4% and even 3.5% deals are increasingly common on higher-priced homes. On $650,000, 5% commission is $32,500, plus 13% HST on top, bringing the total commission bill to $36,725. So the check is already down to about $613,000 before anything else happens. Remember this, commission is negotiable, and a 0.5% cut back puts over $3,000 back in your pocket. Gate 2 is legal and discharge, running roughly $1,800 all in for a straightforward Ontario file, leaving the check at about $611,000 assuming the mortgage is paid off. Gate 3 looks like paperwork, but it isn't optional, the principal residence exemption. Since 2016, the CRA requires you to report the sale on Schedule 3 and file Form T2091 to designate the property. In skipping this can mean late filing penalties up to $8,000, or worse, the CRA disallowing the exemption entirely, turning a tax-free sale into a taxable capital gain years later. This costs nothing today but can reach back and take a 5- or 6-figure bite if ignored, so make sure your accountant knows to file it. Gate 4 is the physical move, realistically $5,000 to $8,000 once you include overlap costs and downsizing, leaving the check around $605,000. Gate 5 is where things fork depending on what you do next, but first, if you buy again in Ontario, land transfer tax applies on a sliding scale, roughly $6,500 on a $500,000 purchase, doubling if you're buying inside Toronto. After every gate and buying a $500,000 home outright, roughly $96,700 actually lands as usable cash. That's the real number behind a $650,000 headline sale. From here there are 3 honest paths. Buy outright and treat the residue as ordinary savings, clean and peaceful but a thin buffer for 2 or 3 decades of retirement. Rent and invest the full net amount, which only works with disciplined long-term returns and genuine comfort never owning again. Or the blended path most retirees actually choose, buying something modest like a $400,000 condo and keeping a real cushion of roughly $197,000. Enough to fund a decade of surprises without forcing a second move. Optionality, not arithmetic, is what makes that version work. One warning before any of this money gets spent. House sale proceeds are invisible to the GIS income test, but the investment income those proceeds generate, interest, dividends, capital gains, is fully visible and can shrink or eliminate your GIS. Talk to an accountant before the check lands, not after, and never leave a check this size sitting in one account for months while you decide. Selling the family home is also a grief event wrapped in a settlement date, and giving yourself 3 to 6 months to feel settled before making big decisions with the residue isn't weakness, it's part of the plan. Negotiate commission before you sign anything, brief your accountant before closing, and decide your destination in writing, not in vibes, because what you keep was decided long before the sign ever went on the lawn. If this helped you see your own sale more clearly, share it with someone who's about to list, drop a comment with your city and I'll tell you what your numbers might look like, and subscribe so you catch the next breakdown before it costs you money.